You were never meant to just survive. Hey, take a breath for a second. Just pause. If you're feeling tired, mentally drained, stuck in a loop, quietly wondering, is this all there is? You're not alone. Maybe you've been running so hard trying to keep up, chasing paychecks, chasing titles, chasing approval. But deep down, something feels off, like you're wearing someone else's shoes. They fit, but they're not made for your path. I've been there. I know what it's like to stare at the ceiling at 2 a.m. anxious about bills, questioning your worth, wondering if all the effort is ever going to mean something. But listen, you were never meant to just survive. You were made for more. Not more stuff, more truth, more connection, more purpose. There's a reason you feel that quiet tug in your chest when you're doing something that lights you up. That's not random. That's your soul remembering who you are. You don't have to hustle to prove your value. You already have it. What if the goal isn't to climb the ladder but to step off it entirely and walk the road made just for you? Start small. Get still. Ask yourself, what moments make me feel most alive? What comes naturally, with ease? These aren't distractions. They're directions. You've spent enough time trying to fit into a system that doesn't see all of you. Now it's time to listen inward, to recognize the signs, to trust that there's a plan already written for you. Because the real journey begins the moment you stop chasing and start discovering. Now let's talk about how you can find that path and finally live the life you were born for. 1. You are not your job. You've been taught that your job defines you, that your worth comes from what you do, how much you make, the title on your email signature, that if you work hard enough, long enough, maybe you'll finally feel successful. But let's be real. How's that working out? If you're honest, maybe you're exhausted. Not just physically tired, but soul tired. Like you're running on a treadmill that never stops. You hit goals, chase promotions, collect achievements, but still feel like something's missing. That's because deep down, you are not your job. Your value doesn't live in a paycheck. It doesn't shrink when you get laid off. It doesn't grow when someone claps for you in a meeting. You are not here just to fill a role. You're here to live a purpose. There's a huge difference. Your job is something you do. Your purpose is who you are. And when those two things don't line up, it feels like wearing a mask every day. You show up, smile, nod, deliver, but a part of you is quietly fading. Because no job, no matter how stable or impressive, can replace a life that feels true. I'm not saying quit your job tomorrow, but I am saying don't confuse what pays the bills with why you were born. You were created with gifts, real ones. You know that feeling when you do something and time disappears. When you're fully there, fully you, that's a clue. That's a little nudge from God, the universe, whatever name you give it, saying, this is yours. So how do you start finding what's real? You get quiet. You ask yourself, what brings me joy, not just relief? What did I love before the world told me what I should be? What am I naturally good at even if no one's paying me for it yet? Write it down. Sit with it. Notice what stirs in you. You'll begin to hear something. A voice, not loud, but steady. A deep knowing. That's not just your thoughts. That's a spiritual GPS pointing you home to who you've always been. Before the world told you to be someone else, you are more than your job. Your soul knows it. That's why the old paths don't satisfy anymore. They were never built for the real you. You were made to create, to serve, to lead, to comfort, whatever your calling is. It was written into you before your first resume, before your first paycheck. And when you align with that calling, something shifts. Work becomes meaningful. Life becomes lighter. You start to breathe again. So if you've been feeling lost, maybe it's not because you're failing. Maybe it's because you've outgrown the version of you that was never truly you in the first place. And that's not the end. That's the beginning. But once you stop tying your worth to what you do, something powerful happens. Begin to discover who you really are. 2. Stop chasing, start discovering. There's a kind of chasing that looks productive on the outside, but leaves you feeling empty inside. You know what I mean? Running from job to job, goal to goal, trying to keep up with everyone else, hustling so hard, but still wondering why it doesn't feel right. It's like chasing a bus that was never meant to take you where you need to go. You're not here to chase. you're here to find. And that shift from chasing to discovering changes everything. When you're chasing, you're in survival mode, always feeling behind, always comparing. You wake up already anxious, thinking you've got to earn your worth, prove yourself again. You say yes to things that don't light you up. You stay in spaces that shrink you. You trade time for security, even when it costs you peace. But when you start discovering, everything slows down in the best way. You begin to notice what actually matters to you, what energizes you, what feels like truth, not performance. You stop moving out of fear and start moving with purpose. It starts by listening, really listening, not to the noise around you, but to what's inside you. That quiet voice, the nudge, the longing you keep pushing aside. That's not random. That's your spirit trying to get your attention. Ask yourself, what would I still love doing, even if nobody clapped? When do I feel most like myself, real, present, alive? Those are not small questions. They're guideposts. You weren't meant to live in a constant state of seeking, proving, adjusting. You were meant to receive direction, to align, to walk a path that feels right, not because it's easy, but because it's yours. There's a difference between hustling for scraps and stepping into a story already written for you. And the truth is, the more you chase what's not meant for you, the further you drift from what is. The opportunities, the peace, the fulfillment don't show up when you're out of alignment. They meet you on the path that was made just for you. So what now? Start small. Take 10 minutes each morning to sit in silence. No distractions, no to-do list. Just be with yourself. Ask, where am I forcing things? Where do I feel flow? Let the answers rise. You'll start noticing things. A thought that won't leave you. A conversation that feels like a sign. A sense of this is it when you do something that makes your soul light up. That's the shift. Stop chasing what drains you. Start discovering what was planted in you from the very beginning. You don't have to fight so hard. You just have to tune in and let what's real lead the way. And when you slow down enough to listen, you might realize what's been holding you back isn't failure, it's comfort disguised as security. 3. The trap of stability. Let's talk about the thing we're all taught to want: stability. A steady job, a good paycheck, health insurance, a retirement plan. On paper, it sounds like success. It sounds like safety. But if you followed that path and still feel unsettled, you're not crazy and you're not alone. Sometimes the thing we call stability is actually a trap. It's the golden cage. It looks secure, but inside, you're restless. You wake up dreading Mondays. You stare at screens, counting hours. You feel this quiet ache, like your life is happening somewhere else and you miss the exit. You weren't made to live in fear of losing what you've built. You were made to build something that's rooted in truth. There's a difference between surviving and thriving, and you can feel it. When you're surviving, everything feels tight, like you're holding your breath. You do what you're supposed to do, but joy feels distant. Peace feels rare. You get your check, pay your bills, and wonder if this is all there is. That's not life. That's maintenance. Thriving feels different. It doesn't mean every day is easy, but it means your days matter. You're not just getting by. You're growing. You're moving in sync with something bigger than you. And here's the truth most people won't say out loud. Chasing security often pulls you further away from your calling, because the path God has for you won't always look stable. It may not come with a perfect plan or a 5-year forecast, but it will come with meaning, with moments where your heart says, this is right, with peace that doesn't depend on circumstances. So how do you know if you're stuck in the trap? Ask yourself, am I staying because I'm callous or because I'm scared to leave? Does this bring me life or just a paycheck? If I knew I'd be okay, would I still be here? These questions don't have to lead to drastic moves right away, but they will start peeling back the layers. They'll bring you closer to what's real. Practice tuning in. Each morning, before the noise starts, ask, where do I feel alive? Where do I feel stuck? Pay attention to what stirs your energy. The job might pay the bills, but your purpose will feed your soul. You don't have to choose recklessness to leave the trap. You just have to choose honesty. Be willing to trust that the same power that gave you your gifts didn't give them to you, to be buried under spreadsheets and deadlines forever. There's a life beyond the trap, a life of movement, of trust, of purpose. Stability isn't wrong. but false stability, kind that costs you your soul, isn't worth it. You were made for more than comfort. You were made to live. Because underneath all that striving, there are signs, gentle, steady reminders that your soul has always known the way. 4. The signs are already there. Sometimes you don't need to look further. You just need to look closer. You've probably had moments when something felt right, effortless, natural, like your whole self clicked into place, even just for a few minutes. That wasn't random. That was a sign, a small glimpse into the kind of life you're meant to live. But in the chaos of work, bills, deadlines, and expectations, it's easy to miss those signs, or worse, to ignore them, because they don't always make sense. They don't always fit the plan you were told to follow. Still, they're there. Little breadcrumbs from something bigger, God, the universe. That deep knowing inside you trying to lead you back to who you really are. You don't need to be told what your purpose is. You've already felt it. In the moments you lose track of time. In the things that light you up without explanation. In the way people thank you for things you do without thinking. Those are clues. Follow them. Start paying attention to what draws you in it, what drains you. The conversations that leave you energized. The work that makes you feel useful, not just used. The topics you could talk about for hours without checking the clock. Ask yourself, when do I feel most alive? What do I do with ease that others find hard? What brings me peace even if it doesn't bring applause? Write the answers down. Sit with them. Let them guide you. This isn't about chasing a dream that looks good on paper. This is about discovering the assignment that was written into you before the world started pulling you in every direction. The truth is, your gifts weren't given to you randomly. They're tools. They're how you're meant to serve, connect, create, and uplift others. And when you use them, life doesn't just feel more elegant, it flows. But here's the thing, you have to stop long enough to see the signs. That might mean stepping away from distractions, turning off the noise for a while, creating quiet moments where your soul can breathe, where your spirit can speak up without being drowned out. Sometimes it's as simple as remembering what you loved as a child, what made you forget to eat or sleep. Sometimes it's as quiet as the peace you feel when doing something no one notices but you. And when something keeps calling you back, pay attention. When an idea won't leave you alone, that's not a coincidence. That's a whisper, a direction. You don't have to force your way into purpose. You just have to recognize when it's already showing up in your life. The signs are subtle, but they're steady, and they're waiting for you to follow. And as those signs become clearer, so does the truth. You weren't made to blend in, you were made to stand out for a reason. 5. You weren't made to blend in. You've probably spent a lot of time trying to fit in. Maybe it started when you were a kid, learning which parts of yourself were too much or not enough. Maybe later, in school, or at work, you learn how to shape-shift, be who people wanted you to be, say what they expected, chase what they applauded. But deep down, you've always known you're different, and that difference isn't a flaw. It's the proof that you were never meant to blend in. You were made to stand out. That doesn't mean being loud or flashy. It means being true, rooted, aligned. It means walking your own path, even when it looks nothing like what everyone else is doing. The world teaches conformity. It rewards people who follow the script. Go to school, get the job, climb the ladder, play it safe. And if you step out of line even for something meaningful, you risk being misunderstood, judged, or ignored. But God doesn't operate by those rules. You were created with something unique in you, a way of seeing, a way of feeling, a way of showing up in the world that nobody else has. That uniqueness is not an accident, it's an assignment. When you try to fit in, you water down that assignment. You start living for approval instead of purpose. You stay quiet when your voice could heal. You hide your light just to make others comfortable. And in doing that, a piece of you goes dim. You weren't made to shrink. You were made to shine. I know that sounds bold, maybe even scary. But what's scarier is living your whole life trying to be someone you're not, and waking up one day wondering why you still feel empty. So how do you begin to stand in your truth? Start by noticing where you're pretending, where you're saying yes out of fear, where you're choosing silence when your heart is asking you to speak. Then ask yourself, if I stopped trying to fit in, what would I do differently? What part of me am I hiding just to be accepted? What if the thing that makes me different is the very thing I'm here to offer the world? Your soul doesn't want applause. It wants authenticity. Standing out isn't about ego. It's about obedience to your purpose, your values, your creator. When you walk in that, you'll find the right people, the right opportunities. The right doors will open not because you pushed, but because you showed up as who you really are. You don't have to force your way into the world. You just have to stop hiding. You just have to remember you weren't made to follow every path. You were made to walk your own. And that path, it's waiting for you to take the first real step. But knowing you're different is just the beginning. No, it's time to walk in that difference, step by step. 6. 4 simple steps to find your divine path. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to start listening. Finding your path doesn't come from pressure, it comes from presence. The truth is, you were never expected to map out every turn. You were only meant to take the next step with faith. So if you're feeling lost, overwhelmed, or unsure where to go next, here are 4 steps that have helped me and might help you too. Step 1. Listen with intention. Not just hear, but listen. This means carving out time to sit in stillness. No scrolling, no background noise. Just you and God, or whatever name you use for that deeper presence within. In that quiet space, ask simple questions. What am I meant to do? Where are you leading me? Don't rush the answers. Just listen. Keep a journal nearby. Often, truth comes not in a lightning bolt, but a whisper, a phrase, a tug on your heart. Make it a daily practice. Even 5 minutes in the morning can change the way you walk through your day. The more you listen, the clearer your path becomes. Step 2. Watch for signs. God speaks in ways we often overlook. A door opens when you least expect it. A conversation hits your soul. A coincidence keeps repeating. These are not accidents. They're breadcrumbs, invitations to pay attention. Ask yourself, what keeps showing up in my life? Is it a topic, a dream, a person, or even a challenge? When something won't leave you alone, it might be something you're meant to step into. Learning to see through spiritual eyes takes practice, but once you start, you'll notice guidance was there all along. Step 3. Develop your gifts. The things you do easily, the passions you've always had, they're not random. They're clues, and they're tools. You weren't just born with them, you were entrusted with them. Maybe you're creative. Maybe you're a natural encourager. Maybe you solve problems in a way others can't. Whatever it is, nurture it. Give time to it, even if no one's paying you yet or praising you yet. Purpose isn't about recognition. It's about alignment. Your gifts were given to help you fulfill your unique role. Don't let them sit on the shelf while you chase someone else's version of success. Step 4. Trust the process. This one's the hardest, because sometimes all you'll see is the next small step. The rest is foggy, and that's okay. That's faith. When you trust that the path will unfold at the right time, you free yourself from fear. You stop forcing. You start flowing. Every delay, every setback known of it is wasted. It's shaping you, preparing you, holding space for something better than what you could plan. So breathe. Be still. Look closer. You're already being led. And as you walk your path, something else begins to shift. Your definition of success and abundance starts to change, too. 7. Redefining wealth, aligning with divine abundance. You've been told your whole life that success means more and more money, more status, more stuff. And so you hustle. You stay late. Say yes when you want to say no. Keep grinding even when you're burned out. Why? Because deep down, like most of us, you just want to feel safe, secure, enough. But here's the truth no one says out loud. Chasing money to feel safe is like trying to hold water with your bare hands. The harder you grip it, the more it slips through. Real abundance doesn't come from overworking. It comes from alignment. When you're living outside your purpose, no paycheck feels like enough. No amount of success fills the emptiness. You spend your days in stress, your nights in worry, and your weekends recovering from a life that doesn't fit you. But when you begin to walk the path meant for you, everything changes. It's like the weight lifts. You stop trying to earn your worth. You start to receive peace, clarity, opportunities that match who you truly are. Divine abundance isn't just about money. It's about having what you need when you need it. It's the conversation that brings breakthrough, the door that opens without you forcing it, the quiet confidence that even if things don't go your way, you're still held. You don't have to live in fear of not having enough. What if money wasn't the source, but just a resource? What if your real wealth came from your connection to your creator, your calling, your inner compass? When you follow that connection, you begin to attract the right things without the desperation. You stop settling for safe and start stepping into what's sacred. So here's a gentle invitation. Ask yourself, where in my life am I chasing instead of trusting? What would it look like to believe I'll be provided for, not just financially, but emotionally, spiritually, relationally? Write those answers down. Reflect on them. You might be surprised by what comes up. If you're constantly anxious about money, it's not because you're broken. It's because the world taught you to depend on systems, not spirit. But your soul remembers another way, a deeper trust, a higher source. Try this. Each time you feel fear about money, pause. Take a breath. Say out loud, I am supported. I have enough. I am enough. It may sound small, but over time, that shift can rewire everything from your mindset to the energy you bring into every room. Abundance isn't something you chase. It's something you align with. When you walk in your purpose, the provision will follow. Not always on your timeline, but always right on time. Because in the end, it's not about chasing more, it's about trusting that who you are and what you carry has always been enough. Trust the bigger story. If you've made it this far, maybe something in you is waking up. That quiet nudge reminding you that life isn't just about keeping up, it's about coming home to yourself. You don't have to chase, prove, or pretend anymore. You were never meant to live in survival mode. You were meant to live on purpose. And no, you don't need to have all the answers right now, but you do need to start asking better questions. What makes me feel alive? What gifts have I buried under fear or pressure? Where do I feel peace even if it doesn't make sense on paper? Don't ignore those answers. They're not distractions. They're direction. You're not behind. You're not broken. You're being called into something deeper, something more real. That path may not look like what others expect, but it will feel like truth. Your gifts matter. Your voice matters. Your path doesn't have to look like anyone else's to be valid. In fact, it's not supposed to. So start small. Get quiet. Trust what stirs in you. Take one honest step, just own it, and let it lead you forward. And remember this, the same God, source, or spirit that gave you your calling will give you what you need to walk it out. You're not walking alone. Real peace doesn't come from having control. It comes from knowing you're on the right road, even if you can't see the whole map. So breathe, be still, and trust the bigger story that's already unfolding in your life.